For 9 years in the military, one thought kept me alive. I kept telling myself, just hold on. One day you'll go home. I pictured Emily waiting at the door. I pictured Liam running into my arms. I pictured Sophie laughing the way she used to when she sat on my shoulders. I stepped out of the taxi and looked down the street. Yeah, this is it, I muttered to myself. The neighborhood looked almost the same. The same maple tree near the sidewalk. The same cracked driveway. My chest tightened. I made it, I whispered. I walked slowly toward the house, my duffel bag heavy on my shoulder. My heart beat faster with every step. Then I heard laughter. Children's laughter. My kids. I smiled immediately. Liam. Sophie, I said quietly. I moved closer to the fence, ready to surprise them. But then I stopped. There was a man in the yard. He was throwing a baseball with Liam while Sophie clapped and jumped around. For a second I thought maybe it was a neighbor. Then the man turned. My stomach dropped. Ryan? I whispered. My cousin Ryan laughed as Liam caught the ball. Nice catch, champ. Ryan said. Liam grinned. Did you see that, Dad? The word hit me like a punch. Dad. I froze. Ryan chuckled. Yeah, buddy. That was a great catch. My ears rang. No, I whispered under my breath. Sophie ran toward Ryan with a drawing in her hand. Dad, look what I made. Ryan knelt down. Wow, Soph, that's awesome. She hugged him tightly. Do you like it, Dad? My hands started shaking. Dad, not Uncle Ryan. Dad. I stepped back behind the fence, my heart racing so hard it felt painful. What is this? I whispered. Liam ran toward Ryan again. Dad, throw it again. Ryan tossed the ball and laughed. All right, last one before dinner. I pressed my hand against the fence to steady myself. Why are they calling him that? I said quietly. Sophie suddenly looked toward the house. Mom, Dad says we can play 5 more minutes. Emily's voice came from inside. Okay, but wash your hands after. My chest tightened. Her voice sounded so normal. Calm, comfortable, like everything was fine. I slowly walked around the side of the house and stopped near the kitchen window. Inside, Emily stood at the counter looking at papers. Ryan walked in a minute later. Kids are getting good with that baseball, he said. Emily smiled. Well, Liam practices every day with you. I felt my stomach twist. Ryan leaned against the counter. Did you pay the electric bill yet? Emily nodded. Yeah, I handled it this morning. Ryan sighed. Good. I was worried we might forget again. Emily laughed softly. Relax. I've got it under control. Ryan opened the fridge. What's for dinner? Pasta, Emily said. Ryan groaned. Again. Emily shrugged. It's cheap. Ryan smirked. Fair point. They stood there talking casually. Bills. Dinner. The kids. Like they were a normal couple. Like they were married. My breathing got heavier. This can't be real, I whispered. Ryan walked closer to her. You're doing great, Em. Seriously. Emily smiled tiredly. Well, someone had to step up. Ryan nodded slowly. Yeah. My jaw clenched. I leaned closer to the window. Ryan lowered his voice. Do you ever think about him? Emily froze for a moment. Then she sighed. Sometimes. Ryan looked uncomfortable. Do you think you know? Emily shook her head quickly. No. Ryan frowned. No. Emily crossed her arms. It's been 9 years, Ryan. Ryan didn't respond. Emily continued quietly. He would have come back by now. My chest felt like it was being crushed. Ryan rubbed the back of his neck. Yeah, I guess. Emily looked toward the yard. Besides, the kids need stability. Ryan nodded. Yeah, they do. Emily said softly, You've been good to them. Ryan shrugged. I try. Emily smiled faintly. They are lucky to have you. I felt something inside me crack. Lucky to have him. Ryan. My cousin. Ryan suddenly asked, Do they still ask about him? Emily hesitated. Not really anymore. Ryan nodded slowly. That's probably for the best. My throat tightened. For the best. I stepped back from the window. My hands were trembling now. Did they just erase me? I whispered. Outside, Liam's voice echoed again. Dad, come play. Ryan walked back toward the yard. Coming. I watched him walk past the window. Watched him step into my yard. Watched my son run toward him smiling. I couldn't breathe. I leaned against the fence and whispered to myself, what the hell happened while I was gone? I didn't knock on my own door that day. Instead, I walked away. Something's wrong, I muttered to myself. This isn't just a misunderstanding. I found the cheapest motel near the highway. The neon sign buzzed while I stood outside holding my duffel bag. Inside the room, I sat on the bed staring at my phone. One name stayed in my mind. Marcus Hill, my best friend growing up. The guy who promised to look out for my family while I was deployed. I dialed. The phone rang twice. Hello. Marcus. There was silence. Then a sharp inhale. Daniel. Yeah, it's me. Holy hell. Daniel, is this really you? Yeah. Another pause. Where are you? In town. You're back. Yeah. Marcus spoke slowly. Did you go home yet? Yeah. Another long silence filled the call. Then he said quietly, Daniel, you should have come home sooner. My chest tightened. What does that mean? Marcus exhaled. Where are you staying? Roadside motel near the gas station. I'm coming over. You don't have to. I'm coming, he repeated. 30 minutes later, someone knocked on my door. I opened it. Marcus stared at me like he'd seen a ghost. Damn, he said softly. Good to see you too, I replied. He stepped inside and shut the door. Man, I thought you were dead. I'm not. Marcus rubbed his face. You look different. Ward does that. He nodded slowly. Then he asked the question I was waiting for. Did you see them? Yeah. Marcus looked down. I crossed my arms. Why are my kids calling Ryan Dad? Marcus didn't answer right away. Marcus. He sighed heavily. We should talk somewhere else. The next morning we sat at a small coffee shop. Marcus pushed a mug toward me. You look like you haven't slept. I haven't. He nodded. Fair. I leaned forward. Start talking. Marcus stayed at the table. About 2 years after you deployed, things started changing. What kind of things? Emily stopped talking about you. What do you mean? She used to tell everyone you'd be home soon. And then she stopped. My jaw tightened. Marcus continued carefully. Ryan started coming around more. He was helping, I said bitterly. Yeah, that's what everyone thought. And later, Marcus rubbed his neck. People started talking. Talking about what? Him staying over. My hands clenched. Marcus kept going. At first, Emily said it was temporary. Temporary. Yeah. And then she started saying things like, maybe your unit got lost. I stayed at him. What? Marcus nodded slowly. She never said you were confirmed dead. Just missing. That's convenient. Marcus sighed. Yeah. I asked quietly, how long has Ryan been living in my house? Marcus hesitated. 3 years. My chest burned. 3 years. Yeah. And my kids. Marcus looked up at me. They were confused at first. Meaning? They kept asking when you were coming home. I swallowed hard. And then Marcus spoke softly. Ryan started picking them up from school. I didn't say anything. He helped with homework. I kept staring at my coffee. He took them to baseball practice. Marcus' voice dropped. And eventually, they started calling him Dad. The word felt like a knife. I whispered, they erased me. Marcus didn't respond. I sat there shaking. Finally, I asked, who else knows? Most of the neighborhood. Great. Marcus leaned forward. Not everyone believed it. Oh yeah. Mrs. Henderson didn't. Mrs. Henderson. You remember her? My neighbor. Yeah. Marcus pointed across the street. She's outside right now. I turned. An elderly woman stood watering plants. Marcus said, come on. We walked outside. Mrs. Henderson looked up. Oh my goodness. She dropped the watering can. Daniel. Hi, Mrs. Henderson. She walked closer slowly. I knew it, she said. Knew what? I told everyone something felt wrong. Marcus nodded. She's been saying that for years. Mrs. Henderson crossed her arms. That Ryan boy moved in too fast. When did that happen? I asked. About 3 years ago. Did Emily ever say I was dead? No, she said firmly. She just stopped talking about you. I felt my chest tighten again. Mrs. Henderson looked at me sadly. I'm sorry, Daniel. Yeah, I said quietly. Marcus placed a hand on my shoulder. What are you going to do? I don't know. Marcus shook his head. Don't rush. I want answers. You'll get them. How? Marcus looked me straight in the eyes. If you want the truth, Daniel, you need to confront them. I clenched my fists. Marcus continued. But do it smart. Smart? Yeah. How? Marcus shrugged. Watch first. That night I sat in the motel again. I stayed at the ceiling for hours. Then I whispered to myself, I'm not going to explode. My voice sounded colder now. I'm going to watch. I picked up my jacket. And wait. For the next week, I stayed invisible. Every morning I parked down the street and watched my own house. Feels strange, doesn't it? Marcus said one day from the passenger seat. Watching your own life from outside. Yeah, I replied quietly. Like I'm a ghost. Marcus handed me coffee. You sure you want to keep doing this? I need to understand what happened. That morning Ryan walked outside holding my truck keys. I whispered, that's my truck. Marcus looked over. Yeah. Ryan climbed inside and started the engine. I felt my jaw tighten. He's driving my truck. Marcus said carefully, try to stay calm. I am calm. But my hands said otherwise. Later that afternoon, I saw Emily step outside. The sunlight hit something around her neck. I froze. The necklace, I said. What necklace? Marcus asked. The one I gave her before deployment. Marcus didn't respond. Emily touched the necklace while talking on the phone. I turned away. That's messed up. Marcus sighed. I'm sorry, man. The hardest part came later. The school bus stopped near the house. Liam and Sophie jumped off. Ryan stepped outside smiling. Hey, kids. Liam ran to him. Dad, I got an A on my test. The word twisted my stomach. Ryan laughed. That's my boy. Sophie hugged him. Dad, can we get ice cream? Ryan nodded. Sure. I whispered to myself. That should be me. Marcus looked at me. You're their father. They don't know that anymore. Days passed like that. Watching, listening, learning. But something else started bothering me. Ryan didn't look happy. One evening Marcus nudged me. Look. Ryan and Emily stood on the porch arguing. I moved closer to the fence. Ryan's voice was tense. You said Daniel was never coming back. Emily crossed her arms. How was I supposed to know he'd survive 9 years? The words hit me like a punch. Ryan rubbed his face. You told everyone he was gone. I thought he was. Ryan shook his head. You didn't know that. Emily snapped. I did what I had to do. Ryan lowered his voice. And if he shows up tomorrow? Emily didn't answer. Ryan continued. What happens then? Emily looked away. He won't. Ryan laughed bitterly. You don't know that. Emily finally snapped. Why are you bringing this up again? Ryan ran a hand through his hair. Because I feel like we built this whole life on a lie. My chest burned hearing that. Emily whispered sharply, lower your voice. Ryan looked toward the street. You think I'm the only one worried? Emily sighed. Ryan, please. Ryan shook his head. You promised me he wasn't coming back. Emily whispered, I believe that. Ryan stared at her. Well, I'm not so sure anymore. Marcus pulled me back from the fence. You heard enough. I nodded slowly. She didn't mourn me, I said quietly. Marcus sighed. She replaced you. The next morning Marcus drove me downtown. Where are we going? I asked. To someone who knows the law. We entered a small office. A woman sat behind a desk reading a file. Marcus cleared his throat. Claire, this is a guy I told you about. The woman looked up. Her eyes widened. You're Daniel Carter. Yes. She stood and shook my hand. I'm Claire Brooks. I sat across from her. Claire opened a folder. Marcus explained your situation. What's my situation? I asked. Claire spoke calmly. Legally, you're still the homeowner. I leaned forward. And Ryan? He has no legal claim. What about my kids? You're their legal father. My chest tightened. And Emily? Claire sighed. She could face serious consequences. For what? Declaring you likely dead without proof. I blinked. She did that. Claire nodded. There are records. Marcus crossed his arms. Told you this was messy. Claire closed the folder. You have options. Like what? You can reclaim your home. And my kids. Yes. I took a slow breath. Claire looked at me carefully. So I need to ask you something. What? Her voice stayed calm. What do you want, Daniel? I didn't answer immediately. Claire continued. Revenge, or your life back. I reached into my bag. Inside was an old photo. Liam sat on my shoulders. Sophie held my hand. I stayed at it for a long moment. Then I looked up. Both, I said quietly. 2 weeks later, everything was ready. Legal papers, witnesses, evidence. Marcus stood beside me on the sidewalk. You ready for this? He asked quietly. No, I said. Claire adjusted the folder in her hands. You don't have to feel ready, she told me. You just have to walk forward. Officer Morales leaned against the police car. I'll stay nearby, he said, just in case things get messy. I stayed at my house. My house, I muttered. Marcus nodded. Still yours. I took a breath. Let's do it. My boots felt heavy as I walked toward the front door. Every step felt unreal. Marcus whispered behind me, You're doing the right thing. I reached the porch. My hand hovered over the door. Then I knocked. Inside, I heard footsteps. The door opened. Ryan stood there. For a second, he just stared. His face turned pale. Daniel. I met his eyes. Hey, Ryan. He stepped back like he'd seen a ghost. What? How? Behind him, Emily walked into the hallway. What's going on? She looked toward the door. Her voice stopped. Daniel. The room went silent. I stepped inside slowly. Emily covered her mouth. You alive? Ryan shook his head. This can't be happening. I spoke calmly. It's happening. Liam and Sophie peeked from behind the couch. They stared at me like I was a stranger. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Then Sophie whispered softly, Mom, who is that? The words felt like a knife in my chest. I swallowed hard. I slowly knelt down. Hey, buddy, I said gently. Liam stayed behind the couch. Hey, sweetheart, I said to Sophie. They both looked confused. I forced a small smile. I'm your dad. Emily suddenly stepped forward. Daniel, listen. Claire walked in calmly and handed her a document. You should read this, Claire said. Emily looked at the papers with shaking hands. What is this? Claire replied evenly. Legal notice. Ryan stared at Claire. Who are you? Claire Brooks. Attorney. Ryan's eyes moved to Marcus. You knew about this. Marcus crossed his arms. Yeah. Ryan looked back at me. You planned this. I came home. Ryan laughed nervously. No, this isn't real. Officer Morales stepped into the doorway. It's real. Ryan's shoulders slumped. Emily read the document again. You can't do this. Claire spoke calmly. He absolutely can. Emily looked at me with tears forming. I thought you were gone. I stood up slowly. You thought. Her voice shook. 9 years, Daniel. I was serving my country. I didn't know if you'd ever come back. Ryan suddenly muttered under his breath. This isn't how it was supposed to go. Everyone heard it. Marcus shook his head. Yeah, life does that sometimes. Emily wiped her eyes. Daniel, please. We can talk about this. We are talking. You don't understand how hard it was. I stared at her. You replaced me. She shook her head. No. I pointed toward Ryan. He's living in my house. Emily cried harder. The kids needed someone. They had someone. Ryan stepped forward nervously. Look, maybe we can figure something out. I looked at him. You figured enough out already. Ryan didn't respond. Claire spoke clearly. Mr. Carter has full legal rights to this property. Emily whispered, Please don't do this. I looked at Liam and Sophie again. They were still watching quietly. My chest tightened. I'm not here to hurt anyone, I said softly. Emily whispered, Then what do you want? My life back. Ryan exhaled slowly. So that's it. That's it. The room felt heavy with silence. Ryan looked around the house. Then he rubbed his face. Guess I should pack. Emily turned to him. Ryan. He shook his head. It's over. Marcus muttered quietly. Finally. Ryan walked down the hallway toward the bedroom. Emily sank into a chair crying. I stood there unsure what to say. Liam slowly stepped forward. Mom, why is that man here? Emily couldn't answer. I spoke gently. Because this is my house. Sophie looked at me. Are you really our dad? My throat tightened. Yes. Ryan returned later carrying a bag. He looked exhausted. I'll grab the rest tonight, he said quietly. No one stopped him. He walked toward the door. Before leaving, he looked at me. You win. I shook my head. This was never a game. Ryan opened the door. Marcus stepped aside. Ryan walked out without another word. The door closed behind him. The house felt strangely empty. Emily cried softly in the chair. My kids still watched me carefully. I realized something painful in that moment. Winning back my house was easy. Winning back my children would be much harder. And the hardest fight of my life was only beginning. The months after that day were slow and painful, but they were also the beginning of something new. One morning, Liam sat at the kitchen table eating cereal while I packed his lunch. He looked up and said, Daniel, where's the peanut butter? The word stung. Daniel, not Dad. I handed him the jar. Right here, buddy. Sophie walked into the kitchen rubbing her eyes. Daniel, can you braid my hair? Of course, I said. She sat on the chair while I carefully braided her hair. Is that okay? I asked. She touched it and smiled. Yeah, thanks. Small moments like that filled my days. Driving them to school, helping with homework, reading bedtime stories. One night, Liam handed me a book. Daniel, can you read this one? I sat on the edge of his bed. Sure. Sophie climbed under the blanket beside him. I opened the book. Once upon a time. Halfway through the story, Sophie asked quietly, Were you really in the army? Yes. Was it scary? Sometimes. Liam looked at me. Why did you stay away so long? Because I had a job to do. Sophie whispered, Did you miss us? Every single day. They listened quietly. After the story, Liam said, Good night, Daniel. Good night, buddy. Weeks passed, then months. Things slowly started changing. One afternoon, Marcus came over while I was fixing the fence. He leaned against the post. You hear about Ryan? No, he lost his business. I kept working. Guess things didn't work out. Marcus shrugged. He moved out of town. I nodded. Probably for the best. Marcus looked at me. You're not even angry. I was. And now? Now I'm tired. Marcus chuckled. Fair enough. Later that week, Claire called me. Daniel, the court finished reviewing Emily's case. What happened? She's facing penalties for false military death claims. I sighed. Does that affect the kids? For now, you keep full custody. I looked toward the living room where Liam and Sophie were laughing. Understood. Are you okay? Claire asked. I will be. One rainy afternoon, someone knocked on my door. I opened it. Emily stood there. She looked different. Tired. Quiet. Daniel, she said softly. I stepped outside. What do you want? She avoided my eyes. I just wanted to talk. About what? She took a shaky breath. I made the biggest mistake of my life. I didn't respond. Rain tapped softly against the porch. Emily whispered, I thought you were gone forever. You thought. I panicked. You replaced me. Tears filled her eyes. I know. I folded my arms. Why are you here? Because I regret everything. For a moment, I remembered the woman I once loved. The memories hurt. Emily asked quietly, Is there any chance you could forgive me? I answered calmly. Some mistakes don't get second chances. She wiped her eyes. I understand. We stood there silently. Finally, she said, Take care of them. I will. She nodded once. Then she walked away. I closed the door slowly. Life kept moving. One evening, Liam and Sophie sat on the couch while I cooked dinner. Liam called out, Dad, the TV remote is missing. I froze. For a moment, I thought I imagined it. Dad. I turned around slowly. Yeah. Liam held up the couch cushion. Found it. I smiled. Good job. Sophie laughed. Dad, Can we watch a movie after dinner? My chest felt warm. Sure. Later that night, we sat outside watching the sunset. The sky glowed orange and gold. Liam sat beside me. Sophie leaned against my shoulder. Liam asked quietly, "Dad, can I ask something?" "Of course. Why did you come back?" I looked at them both. Because no matter how far life sends you, family is worth fighting for. Sophie squeezed my arm. "I'm glad you came back." "Me too." We sat there quietly watching the sun dissipate. And in that moment, I understood something clearly. I didn't just survive the war overseas. I survived the one waiting for me at home.